Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so we'll call this meeting to order. Megan, if you take roll call. I'm not. I guess I'm not. Let's see. Okay. It shows everybody is present. If you all stand for silent prayer and pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. I would take a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So move.
Okay, moved by Mr. Waddle, second by Mr. Bonfiglio. Is there any discussion? Okay, and we'll proceed to vote. Yeah, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, passes. Approval of the minutes of the December 20th, 2022 monthly meeting. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Eckstein, second by Mr. Urban. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, very good. Public comments. We have just one public comment tonight, and that's by Miss Ruth Zowski.
Good evening. I just have a couple of updates that I wanted to give you. We didn't have exec and some more information came in this week. First of all, as it relates to the lawsuit that Mr. Joseph has filed against several members of the board and staff for the county, everything has been turned over to the insurance company. It looks like Lori Lubinsky, who has represented the county in different lawsuits, will be representing us, and they are looking at all of the different options. So rest assured, you do not need to go out and get your own attorneys. We're taking care of it, and I will keep you in the loop. Now, for some good news, I will be back probably in March looking for more approvals on potential settlements for the opioid lawsuit. They are in the middle of completing the settlement paperwork. They hope that for the pharmacies, and they are hoping that that will go to the state's attorney generals to be approved in February, and then it'll be ready for the counties to approve in March. And with that, it's settlements with 5 different pharmacies, and that is another $20 billion that will go into this. Not all of it, of course, to us. We'll still get like the same percentage kind of thing that we got from the other one, but these will be paid quicker. Walgreens is 15 years. That's the longest term one. Some of our other settlements right now are longer, but most of these will be paid out over like the next 6 years. Walmart is hoping to have theirs all paid off within 3 years. The 2 cases that are in bankruptcy court, all of the documents are with the trustee to be approved, and then we should also be getting payments from those. It'll all be going through the same portal, so it'll all come through the same line so that Sarah doesn't have to track multiple different payments coming into different places. So that's good news. The application to apply for funds is now online. It's also been sent out to the departments. So if you know of anybody or any civic groups that are interested in any kind of funding for abatement, education, those kind of things, have them check it out. Also online is the RFP for requesting proposals for what to do with the North Annex and the courthouse. That also has been sent to all the municipal clerks and the librarians to just try to get that information out in the hands of the public. So if you know anybody who's interested or has an idea and even wants to just meet with us, have them get in touch with me. And I made it in 3 minutes, Brandon.
Very good. Made it. Thank you, Ruth. Unfinished business. I see there's none. We'll move into new business, reports and presentations, bug tussle progress update. So we have Sam Shinicki. Sam, thank you.
Thank you everyone for having us here tonight. As was said, my name is Sam Cheneke. I am the marketing design strategist for Bug Tussle. I'm here to give us a little update on where we're at with our fiber project here in Waushara County. So first of all, I want to go over what we actually promised to the county, and that is that we were going to build 215 miles of fiber optic middle mile throughout the county, particularly into the rural areas to provide connections to households, businesses, as well as to the 911 network and to multiple county facilities, as well as some of the existing wireless towers in the county, excuse me. So what I have to say is that, first of all, over the course of this project, we have endured many challenges: inflation, workforce, supply chain, even right down to locators for these utilities. But despite that, we are on schedule and on budget. Everything is going according to plan despite these challenges. So here's where we're at. Of the total mileage, 88% is sitting either in or past the permitting phase. Of this, also 40% is conduit, so that's 85 miles. So this is the conduit that is in the ground by our construction crews to actually put the fiber into for protection. 70 miles of that, 33% of this route, has fiber cable in it. The pink and orange area that you see on the map here, consisting of the western half of the county, is expected to go live by April of this year, with the rest of the route following later this year. Again, this is all on schedule, so we are expected to meet our end times. So what is the future that we're seeing with this project? So fast forward later this year, when this is all complete, everything you see in green will be live. This will be serving homes, businesses, and so forth along all that route. The foundation will be complete. A lot of people ask us where we're going to go from here. Are we just done after this? And the answer is no. This is a foundation. You can't build a home with a roof, without having a foundation, without having walls on it. So this is our foundation. So from here, us or any other provider can come and hook into this. It will be open access. So for a monthly fee, anyone can hook into this and build off of it, whether that is a fiber network or a wireless service that they want to provide to an additional area beyond this route, providing more and more service to the county until full coverage is achieved. And again, that is for any provider. So we will work with anyone, not just ourselves, to achieve this. Over the course of this project, we are going to improve wireless services of our towers. Through this fiber, it will connect to these towers, providing faster speeds and better backhaul for it. So we will see better performances for the customers who are operating still on a wireless basis and not a direct cable basis. Fiber expansions are going to be possible. So off of this middle mile, we can build more fiber to the home into expanding neighborhoods. We also want to build what we are calling bug beacons. These are what we are deeming mini towers. So some towers that can transmit data over about a mile range, using a technology that can deliver speeds equal to what the fiber itself can over that small distance. So up to a gigabyte per second down. So this is something that can help to deliver to small neighborhoods or sections where fiber delivery may be impossible. Also in the future, there is more potential for partnership. We have been greatly pleased to work with Waushara County on this project, and we hope that that will not end when this project is over. We are looking to expand this more and more as we go. So again, thank you for having us here tonight. That's all I really have to share, but I will be around after if there are questions or if you have any now.
Does anybody have any questions now? What would you envision being like, say, the phase 2 or where you start? Because you said your company too is looking at expanding off of this. At what point do you look at that, the potential of expanding off of there?
So we've already started looking at that potential.
Okay.
So as we're completing this route has been engineered, it's in progress. All that's happening right now is the actual construction part. So on the backside, we have already started looking at where could we go next. So talking to residents, gaining interest, finding out where there are neighborhoods that are still suffering. And we've heard from quite a number asking, we see your phase 1, but that doesn't include us. What does that mean for us? And letting them know that there's still potential there. So we have looked around many of the lakes in the area where there are high populations, as well as other rural neighborhoods where we can expand into. And again, that could be via fiber, or that could be with enhanced wireless services.
Okay, very good. Anybody have any other questions at all? Okay, thank you, Sam. Appreciate it. Okay, next we're going to have the financing plan update. We're going to start off with a text explanation from Sarah, Jess, and Steph. Is that right? The Dream Team.
Okay, so we were asked last week to kind of provide an understanding of your tax bills, the tax levy, how it's calculated, and at the end, an explanation of how the mill rate can go down, but yet your tax bills can still go up. So hopefully we don't put you to sleep. But so every year, every year, each parcel of taxable real estate or item of personal property generates a tax bill. Our specific county budget already begins in April of every year and runs through November when we pass it at the November public hearing. So we are residents of Waushara County, as are you guys. We don't want our taxes to go up any more than the next person. So we often don't understand how the tax bills are going to change or impact us until we get all of those calculations. So I know right off the bat in July when we start our budget process, and say, for example, so it's very unrealistic, but my finance budget goes up $1 million. What's that going to do? Well, we don't really know yet until we get all of the numbers that come from the state and can start putting that stuff together. So moving forward, what is the mill rate? The mill rate is the total tax rate divided by the equalized value of the taxable property within Waushara County. When we moved forward in 2022 and we adopted our county budget, we had a total tax levy of $21 million. Our equalized value, if you remember, went up like 17%. So it came out to that 3.5 figure that you see on the screen, causing our mill rate to actually go down from the year before. So do you want to talk about how that's calculated? Sure. Okay.
All right. Good evening. I'm Steph Saller, and I am going to explain to you tonight about how the tax listing office works with municipal clerks to calculate our tax bills. So the Thursday or Friday before Thanksgiving, we will send to each municipal clerk a blank mill rate worksheet. The clerk then has to write down the amount levied, which is provided to them. This is a value that they get. Then they divide that by the total assessed value, and then that gives the mill rate. And this is done for each taxing district for that municipality. Once they have that filled out, they send it back to us and we input it into our tax database. Once all that's inputted, we double check it. And then what we'll do is we'll run a couple of reports, make sure everything is looking correct. All the calculations are working as they should. And what we'll actually do is we'll go to a couple of the tax bills and calculate it manually to ensure that that tax calculation is working correctly. So for this example, in the town of Rose, this total assessed value is at $92,900. You multiply that by the mill rate for each of those taxing districts, and you'll see that those numbers are what our net tax is for that property. So we'll do that for a couple of them in that municipality, and then we'll actually send the reports to the municipal clerk and we'll say, everything is looking correctly on our end. Do you agree? And if they do, then we will go ahead and print all the tax bills and then hand it off to them. So that is kind of a condensed version of how we work with the municipal clerk on calculating the tax bills for all the municipalities.
Okay, so how is the levy set? So levy limits in Wisconsin say that the local governments can't raise property taxes by a greater percentage than the increase in the net new construction. So if you recall last year, when we were going through the budget process before we even presented anything to you. You may have heard some rumblings. Our net new construction only went up 1.047%. So it basically amounted to what we were actually allowed to go up in general county operations, about $107,000. We were 2.9 million over that. So we had to go back and relook at budgets and figure out, can we charge more for fees? What is something that we maybe could do without? So we had to look at every single department's budget, because in whole, with salary increases, if there should have been anything, changes for a health insurance increase, the cost of fuel that rose astronomically last year, anything like that could only fit in that $107,000. So that's where that new construction comes into. We can't just increase whatever we want. We are limited by that net new construction and the levy limit.
If I may interject just something about the net new construction, because when we look at our county and there's a lot of value here, that 1.047, if you make that a comparatively across counties, it's actually on the high side, believe it or not. So I don't want anybody here in the county to think, oh my goodness, how come we're only at 1.047 when we've actually had a real value increase of 17%? What happened years ago was the legislature tried to enact a formula that basically kept local governments increasing their operation. They basically tied your hands with respect to that. So I just wanted to make that point about that particular part of it. It's actually relatively high compared to my other counties. Most of them are under 1%.
And I can confirm that when we went to our Wisconsin Finance Association conference, they had a big presentation from a lot of the cities and villages, and some of them were only allowed to increase $50,000. So when you talk about your utilities or needing a squad, I mean, that one purchase, we're being expected to basically do a lot more with less. So after we pass the budget in November, I have to do the county apportionment, and that apportionment goes across every town, city, and village in appropriation of the valuation, and that valuation is set forth by the Department of Revenue. So it's a big, long 10-digit percentage that they send to me, and that's what I have to take forth and do to calculate out which portion of each municipality will pay of the Waushara County budget that was passed of the $21 million levy. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a comparison of that apportionment. You can see the tax levy in 2022 was about 19 million, and what we were proposing for this 2023 budget was 21 million. There are some factors that go into that apportionment. If you look, we substantially increased our 0.5% sales tax credit, which is a good thing. That helps to offset part of that $21 million. Everything else that goes on the apportionment, this is kind of how it's broken out. So the state and penal charges, that is something that comes from the state of Wisconsin, usually in about August. In 2022, there was 50,000. In 2023, we didn't have any charges, so we didn't have to account for that. The public health budget actually decreased, and these are just the way the state requests. So they pull out certain figures that we have to just show differently. So that's why we see public health differently. So their budget decreased for what we proposed for 2023. The EMS budget actually went up about 500 and some odd thousand compared to the previous year. The library budget went up slightly, and then the all other county tax is everything else. So it's all the other departments rolled into that, making up our tax levy for 2022 and for 2023. So I know we've kind of always talked about there are some levies that are withheld outside the levy limit. So specifically for Waushara County, the levies that are not held to the limit are the county libraries and our EMS budget. So what that means when I prepare the levy worksheet is I get the numbers, they're sent to me usually the first or second week in September, which is why that's when we really start to figure out, oh my gosh, we have to present to you guys in the following week and we have $2.9 million to cut. Now what do we do? Because we don't have those numbers until I physically get them. So when that comes due, they give us all of the calculations, and that calculation came to about 17,000 or $17 million, excuse me. And I can say, then I can take EMS and library and add it. So it actually gives us that 21 that we can increase. So it allows us a little bit more wiggle room. We're not held to that levy limit of the 1.047% because we can pull EMS and the library out. So it gives us a little bit of extra wiggle room when preparing what we can afford in our budget. And that's really kind of what I was saying here. There's the 17.9. Those are the figures that came from the state. Then when I add the library budget back in and the EMS budget back in, our adopted tax levy for 2023 was $21 million.
Hello, I'm Jessie from the Treasurer's Office. We're just going to review the tax bill. As you guys are probably already familiar, the tax bill has a lot of information. You have the owner info, parcel information, the valuations, the total amount of tax, the comparison between the tax base from the prior year to the current year, and then again, the installment or full payment options. What I thought we should do is dissect the tax bill. So at that top section, you'll see the breakdown of assessed land value, the assessed value of improvements and total assessed value, as well as the average assessment ratio, and then again, the fair market value breakdown. So the assessed value is set by the municipal assessor used to calculate the appropriate tax rates. The assessed value does not reflect the property's market value, which is based on inflation or deflation. The next section or middle section in between the assessed value and fair market, you have that assessment ratio, which is the relationship between the assessed value and the fair market value. Municipalities must revalue at least once every 5 years, and the two values must be within 10%. So the acceptable ratio range is 0.90 to 1.10. And then the next section towards the right, it would be the fair market, which is I guess it reflects the appropriate market value on your property as of January 1st of each year. The assessed value is divided by the average assessment ratio to arrive at the estimated fair market value. So this is intended to give property owners a basis for comparison to determine if the assessment placed on their property is reasonable, and property owners must be aware that the level of assessment is an average for the taxation district. And down below, I have a couple of asterisks in regards to that assessment ratio. The increase of equalized value has impacted all but one municipality by decreasing the average assessment ratio outside of the 10% acceptable ratio range. Therefore, the assessors will have to reevaluate 25 of the 26 municipalities. So with the state of Wisconsin raising our values, it actually made, I guess it pushed each municipality out of compliance. So they actually have 4 years to do that. And if the municipal assessor does not, the state will step in to make sure that they are in compliance. Next, I just wanted to go through how the tax is calculated off of the bill. So we take the total assessed value, which is in that upper left-hand section, of 185,600 multiplied by the mill rate, and it gives you the gross amount of tax that's on the right side of the bill. Then you have to subtract off the lottery, first lottery and first dollar credit, if applicable, and then add in any special charges. And then that will give you the net tax of $3,540. Now, let's calculate the fair market value. So we're going to take that total assessed value again, but instead we're going to divide it by that average assessment ratio of 0.7045. So that gives us a fair market value of $263,449.25. But the fair market value is actually rounded to the nearest hundredth. So you'll see it reflected on the tax bill as $263,400. And there are times where that fair market value, if you were to take the total assessed value, and then divide it by that ratio, it wouldn't equate to the right number. And that's the only time you'll really see that is if it's land that's assessed as agricultural use, because they're actually taxed on half of the value. All right. So we talked about apportionment and how the county's levy and how it's the county's levy spread out over each municipality and every taxable parcel. Stay tuned for equalized value and how it shakes this up. But the larger midsection of the real estate tax bill breaks down the comparison of each taxing authority by its current tax year versus the prior tax year, and then the estimated state aids, the net tax, and the percentage of change. So that middle section you'll see there. The estimated state aids allocated increased from 1.2 million to 1.4 million. So it was an increase of $211,361 for 2022. And then now if you actually look at the comparison of the net tax, you'll see that there was an increase in the county portion on this bill for $127.13, which was an increase of 8.7%. Now, we're going to talk about equalized value and how the county's levy or apportionment affects each municipality differently. The Department of Revenue determines the equalized values yearly. The equalized value is the full market value of the taxable property in each municipality for both real estate and personal property as of January 1st, and it's certified by the Department of Revenue on August 15th of each year. This is similar to the fair market value that is reflected on your bill. The purpose of equalized value is to estimate the municipality's total value in a standardized manner by calculating the equalized value, and then to also guarantee the fairness and distribution of the tax burden. For example, if a municipality represents 30% of the county's full value, that municipality will pay 30% of the county levy. You'll see in the next slide how the amount of the county's levy differs by municipality. So I have on the left, the town of Rose, and then on the right, the town of Springwater. So of that 21 million of our budget, the town of Rose actually, they are absorbing $631,262.25 of our levy, where the town of Springwater's absorbing $2,573,175.69. And that's because the town of Springwater has a higher equalized value than the town of Rose. So then there's the question, how does the mill rate go down and the taxes go up? There are a few factors that can cause your tax bill to go up without a change to your assessed value. And that was one of the questions. Hey, my assessed value stayed the same, but my taxes went up. How can that be? I didn't make any changes. Well, it could be because the taxing entity has an increase to their budget, the equalized value increases for the municipalities, or looking at the taxing entities as a whole, you may run into a school referendum that can cause an increase as well. Waushara County had both an increase in our budget and the county's equalized values increased by 17%. Therefore, the municipalities that have higher equalized value percentage pays a higher portion of the county's levy. And then there's the question, if the county's budget didn't increase or increase minimally, however, there was an increase in the real estate tax, it could be due to the assessment change on a specific parcel. So if you're looking at your bill and you had maybe built a garage or done an improvement that way, that could increase it. Or again, the equalized value increased for the municipality. And in brief, that's all we have. Thank
Okay.
you.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions for any of these? Now's the time.
So
Okay, Pat?
equalized value,
Yes.
you're saying if the municipalities, City of Watoma went up 17%, all the tax, all people in the city pay that 17%?
Well,
Are you sharing the burden? Is that what you're telling
yep,
me?
you're sharing the burden, yes. So if
How?
this, well, I can't say if it increased 17%, but if the city holds 20% of the county's value, then the City of Watoma's parcels for real estate and personal property will have to absorb that 20% of the county's levy.
I understand that, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is if there's a lot of development, business development within municipality, and the value of their property has gone up because of that, new businesses.
Okay.
So why do the other taxpayers within that municipality have, or how do you determine that percent
The state actually determines that percentage. So that's something that's done by the state of Wisconsin. And then we get that information, I believe, in August.
So, okay.
Is there any way that,
Get that information if we wanted to know, like, where. do
Well,
they
I
come
sent out in my email, I had sent a letter. And so in that letter, I have information on the apportionments and then the equalized value. So it actually gives you a breakdown by municipality, the different classes of assessments and what those amounts are. And you can stop in and, or I can give you a call too and answer more questions, but I would refer to that email. I had sent it in the beginning of January. Or I can send it again.
Jess, is there any way, like if at that time when they're setting that, that somebody can dispute that or look at that, you know, or is that just set in
I know
stone what it is?
assessments you can dispute
Mhm.
since it's set by the state. I'm not entirely sure about that because, you know, they're gathering the data all year. And from my understanding, it's how the property will, like, I guess the properties or the municipality was as of January 1st. I could reach out to the state of Wisconsin and just follow up in an email and let you know. Yes.
Maybe, and also, question, John, each local municipality has a board of review
Mhm.
that is, as you know, if you get an assessment on your property, and whoa, wait a minute.
Mhm.
You can then make an appointment with the local board of review, look at that, them justify why it is in fact that level. That board of review can make a determination as to whether or not they want to alter that much. It doesn't end up that, you know, you get total satisfaction when you go to the board of review.
Mhm.
That is the process. So back to Pat's question, which is a good one. You can see from the wonderful job that your staff has done with this, it's not an easy, you know, I can live right next to you, John. We got two different properties and they say, well, how come our bills are so different?
Mhm.
The state tries to help you in terms of realizing that.
Mhm.
But nothing's 100%, as you know, so.
So
Yeah.
all of these municipalities, with the exception of one, are getting assessed again, or reassessed? They have to do that within 3 years?
4 years.
Within 4 years,
Yeah.
they can be out of that compliance for that long?
Yep, it's not a good idea to wait that long, but I know, I spoke with John Blader and I know he's working on 2 or 3 this upcoming year to get them into compliance. But then again, they're raising, you know, those assessed values, which means depending on the mill rate, the taxes potentially could go up.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
I was under the understanding that, I thought I read somewhere that the county and the school are able to use fair market value.
Well, yes, so, well,
Municipalities aren't.
I know that the school district is similar to the county in the fact because you could have the Watoma Area School District, but it's spread out between the town of Leon, maybe partially. You've got the town of Marion, city of Watoma. So I believe they have more of an equalized value approach. I know the school districts, but I'm not sure about.
That's absolutely right. And because, as Jess said, we encompass a number of townships. Both the school district has multiple townships, county has all of the townships. And if you looked at those various tax bills that they showed us, you saw that the assessment rate is different on each one of them. So if I live in one township and John, you live in the next, and your township is assessing at 50% of fair market value, and mine's at 80%, that would have stayed without equalizing. I would pay 30% more my share if we had a similar value home. See that?
Mhm.
That's why the state tries to say, okay, let's equalize it. We can compare one township to another that has a different assessment ratio. And both John and I enjoy the services of the county or that school district we both live in. We should pay a proportionate share of the cost of operating. That, I think, in the big picture of things is where what I got, I appreciate this because everybody learned something from this. It's put together very nicely for me to go, oh, as much as I've been involved in this through my career, a few little lights go on and go, okay, yeah, I've heard it said a little differently, now I understand it a little more deeply. So I think it was a great exercise, by the way.
Thank you.
Good. Some other questions? Yep, Brian.
This is a specific question because I know you were on the email and a couple of us were on the email, and I'm sure that's
Yes.
where this came from. So his taxes, this gentleman's taxes went up 9%, $700. Let's say.
Yes.
400 of that was from the schools, not much that we could do about it.
Correct.
The other $300 looks like it might have been the equalized value going up. Is that
Yes,
why?
ultimately, yes.
All right, are you?
I can
a
re-
little bit more capable of replying?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep,
Okay.
I definitely can do that on our behalf. Thank you.
Wherever it can.
Ever did you?
Just because they come to board of review and complain about their taxes doesn't mean that the town board can do anything about them. The way it works is our assessor assesses their property and determines the value. The only thing we can do is make sure that the assessor has the right figures as far as acreage or whatever is there. We're not allowed to go and check that house to see if they've got an extra fireplace in the basement or something like that. We only can change it if we can prove that the assessor has made a mistake of some kind.
Sure.
And so it isn't that easy. And most of the time, at least with our assessor, there's a phone number right on the bill, and they can call him and they can maybe not make them happy, but make them feel that everybody's been treated equally. So we don't have many people coming to Springwater for a review.
Sure.
Knock on wood. Thank
I
you.
think Pat's question was more of the breakdown between businesses and residential, if it's just a blanket for everybody or if it's,
I mean, you know, if the state determines that there's nothing that we can do, but I guess my question is if you have a municipality that's growing, businesses are building in the municipality, why is it really fair for the people that own homes in that municipality have to pay a higher percentage because of that development? It's like they're getting.
They shouldn't in that case. In fact, that's an ideal situation where a local municipality wants to grow its tax base. Because let's say as an example, there's $1 million that they need to share in, and 1 year that municipality is worth $1 million. Okay. Now the following year, we've had a lot of businesses come in, and now there's $2 million of value there, some new properties, etc. In theory and practice, that year's tax bill, Pat, should be cut in half. Because now you've got more people with new value that's shared in the costs of operating that government. Does that make sense to you?
I understand that, yeah.
Good job.
okay,
Thank you.
good. Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Jeff, did you have some comments? Jeff from Huntington? Yep, Huntington Securities. If you'd go ahead and
Thank you.
give us an update.
Certainly really appreciate staff. It's been a pleasure working with them for the last number of years, 10 for me. And anyway, my concern certainly is that people in the communities that aren't pointing the finger and saying this is because of the building program. It's not. We are 7 cents per thousand under what we estimated our impact was going to be. So right now in this budget that you adopted and that you've sent out tax bills for, that roughly is 38 cents above where we were the previous year. So that 38 cents, somebody owns a $200,000 piece of property, that's $76 of that tax bill. So I want you to feel comfortable that right now where we are, we're below those projections that I made for you when we started this building program. And going forward, looking at the balance of that, there's some additional challenges because of course, the additional 20-some million dollars that you may be looking at to complete this project. So, I'm losing more hair and not sleeping quite as well as I used to, but I think we're going to be all right. I think we're going to be able to do the balance at that $1.50 total. That doesn't mean another $1.50. We're right now at 91 cents. So I believe based on where I see the market and what we can do to mitigate the first couple of years of interest costs, we're going to be okay. Those are the numbers you made a decision on, and I believe we can deliver those numbers. Now, it's going to alter what I had originally had in terms of planning when we were looking at 64 million, 65 million, I think it was, 63. It's going to alter my scenario a little bit. You may know, and Jesse may have shared with you, the fact that we've instituted a program where we're having some professional money managers on our construction fund, and we're going to generate a bunch of interest income while that money is sitting there. Right now, I think we're estimating 400 some thousand dollars of additional income. I want to accelerate that by getting into the market with the balance of your money so we can get it into that reinvestment program. The short end of our yield curve is inverted, which means 1-year interest costs are higher than 10-year, 15-year, and 20-year. Does that make sense to you? So instead of having a yield curve like this, it's more like that. Bodes well for us because we got a long-term financing to do by the end of the year. And what this inversion has done is it's made the markets feel more comfortable that inflation isn't going to be long-term. Does that make sense to you? Which means the longer-term rates aren't going up. Short-term rates are, no question. Feds are controlling that. If they are, let's take advantage of that. I didn't anticipate we were going to do much in terms of reinvesting on those monies because of where the market was, and the market was so low, and we couldn't get anything for them. So why incur interest dollars on them if we're not using them? It's now different. Long story short, when we do the long-term takeout, I would like to have a bunch of monies in that fund that we're not using for construction. If you looked at the budget, Sarah was pointing it out, we contributed cash from sales tax last year, probably the year before, and you're using it properly. This year it was 2.2 million, 2.1 million on that sheet. I would like you to have maybe another 1.5 million in investment earnings to use when you come into this November's budget to soften the impact of the increased interest cost. Does that make sense to everybody? Because I don't want our constituents saying, you know, we're paying more than you said we would. And the reason I can't structure it any differently is because the first 17 million we did at an incredible rate, that's in place. That's 10 years in place. And I don't want to touch those payments. I don't want to move them around. Okay, so I need to contend with a little more interest costs in the first couple of years. So that's why I'm here tonight, to just explain to you that in the process, I'm going to be bringing back to you a note, short-term note, probably going to be due this December. There's a reason for that. In August, we'll get a new valuation. By November, you'll have known your budget and whether or not, whether impacts there might be on your budget, EMS, whatever it might be, library, additional. And then we'll be able to set that tax rate to where we promised it was going to be so that our constituents aren't paying any more for that building than we anticipated they would way back when we started. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to deliver, as everyone knows, this last year, you looked at numbers, and Melissa was good enough to send me some numbers. You were at a seminar, and when you looked at all of that, and you went, oh, and thank God we're still alive based on, you know, where the markets have gone, where the cost of food has gone, where the cost of gas has gone. And those are all pressures that are put on you in terms of budgeting and where are we going to get the money to pay that and operate, let alone, you know, pay these wonderful people who you have in terms of your staff a decent wage so they don't go somewhere else. Please don't go anywhere else. Happy to answer any questions for you. Certainly always appreciate the opportunity to address this body. And I certainly want to thank your staff personally for all that they've done.
Well, we appreciate your availability too, Jeff.
No problem, John.
Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions for Jeff? Nothing? Okay, very good. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All right, and we'll move into the county administrator's monthly report. Melissa?
Now, this is your last chance to ask all tax-related questions because the dream team's here, so. No, I'm just kidding. We'll always get back to you on questions that you have if you have specific questions from constituents and they need answers that you don't feel like you can. We will help them get through the tax bill because they are not easy to understand. So thank you for putting that together and thank you, Jeff, for coming. I want to talk about the building project right away. So February 2nd, the Samuels Group will be having a a safety lunch. Is that what they call it?
Mhm.
I'm actually at a conference that day, so I can't make it. But February 2nd at noon, you all are invited to come to that. They just asked that you would RSVP. So if you want to tell me at the end or you want to shoot me an email, then I can let them know just for the food reasons. I'm thinking it'll be like an hour, maybe hour and a half, and it's going to be actually on the site, and you will get to see some of where we are, you know, weather dependent, but there it's covered, right? It's in covered.
It's down underneath. Yep. Mhm.
So you are invited. They told me to let you know also if you would like to come. But just so they have the food, but it's at the noon hour, February 2nd, Groundhog's Day. So we did have our owners meeting today, and we went through all of the projects just to give you a few, an idea of where we are. The Poisippi, they're thinking that will be done in May of this year. And this is all like tentative. We're going to talk a little bit more about buildings and grounds just to give people an idea of where we are. So Poisippi EMS dining May of 2023. The highway is clicking along, and they're thinking that will be January 2024. And then the government center, they say spring, so I say probably June, July. We'll have a better idea of that as they move forward, but probably June, and that will be a structured move. So as we move closer to that, the departments will get involved and we'll keep you updated on that part. Any questions on building stuff at all? Anybody getting questions? No? Then yesterday we had our first safety. It was on Martin Luther King Day. We closed the facility and had a training for the staff here and the North Annex. It went really well. It was very well received. I want to thank specifically the sheriff's office, his staff, Dan, Marty, and Leif did a phenomenal job. They kept everyone engaged. Alan Lucchini was there to help out, and we had different moderators, and it went really well. And it's a really good discussion before we move into the new building, how we would react on different scenarios and where our weaknesses are, what we would do if there was an active shooter or if there's a gas leak, which happens a lot around here lately. So it was really good, and we're going to be combining those results and talking through some of those things in the upcoming months with the staff. So thank you for allowing us to have that, and it was like I was very happy with the reception of that. I am going to the Towns Association next week, and Mr. Chairman is also going to be at that meeting. So I will be bringing this presentation that the staff did, because I'm sure they also have tax questions, and so that they can also have that. And it probably would be a good idea if we could put it on the website. Not that everyone will understand it, but at least it's more information of where the tax bills are coming from. And then next month, I'll have more information on the building. We have buildings and grounds on this Thursday. And then we'll be talking probably in March about year-end numbers and also our upcoming audit and Tyler. And we're going to be talking about our leases, because we're getting audited on all of our leases. And some of those haven't been looked at real closely, and we'll be looking at that by the end of this year, hopefully. So, any questions?
Any questions, Melissa?
February 2nd,
Okay,
12th.
thank you. Okay, we'll move into reports and presentations. The Clerk of Court's Office Annual Report, Katrina Rasmussen. Thank you.
Hello. So I'm Rena. I'm the clerk here in Washington County. This is my first annual report, hopefully of many. So I was appointed as a clerk in March when Melissa resigned, and then was elected in November and started my 4-year term on January 1st. So just about everyone has heard about the Clerk of Court's office, but very few people know what the Clerk of Court's office actually does. My office is basically everyone's access to the courts. So these people here are the people that make up the circuit court in Washington County. So our county has 2 judges, 2 judicial assistants, and 1 court stenographer that is assigned to branch 1. And in addition to me, the clerk, there are 5 deputy clerks. So tonight I'm going to explain who we are, what we do, and how we serve the community. So our office manages the records for the court, manages the finances of the courts, manages the juries for the courts, and administers the county court systems. One of the most important functions of our office is being the official custodian of the records. So simply put, we manage the records for the court. We create and maintain the court records, which includes processing all of the filings that come through the courts. We do the scheduling for the courts and take down the minutes in court proceedings. We record liens and monetary judgments, and we provide access to court records. So what you see here on this slide are all of the cases that were filed by the district attorney's office, law enforcement, zoning, or the public health department. And we receive these filings electronically from those departments. So as you can see, the criminal filings in 2022 were down a little bit from 2021, which could be attributed to the fact that the district attorney's office was down 2 assistants for a good portion of the year. And pictured here are our 2 criminal and traffic deputies, Mitchell Gerdoskus and Jill Mastrocola. So these case types here on this slide are all of the different civil case types that go through the circuit court. These cases are filed either electronically by attorneys, or any pro se litigants could come to the counter and file these in paper form. So and pictured here on this slide are Katie Sullivan. She's the one sitting. She is our family clerk. And Tracy Piancikowski-Jerian is our civil and jury clerk. So the other case types in our court system are noted on this slide. These are the cases that are handled by the Register and Probate's office. And most of these cases are handled in a confidential matter. These are the more sensitive case types. Pictured here on this slide are Karen Mastrocola at the top. She's the Register and Probate and the judicial assistant for Judge Dutcher. And then Caitlin Nett at the bottom, she's our juvenile clerk, and she is the judicial assistant for Judge Dutcher. So the clerk of court's office is also responsible for handling the court finances. We produce reports on a daily, monthly, and annual basis. We also collect and distribute restitution in our office. This past year, we collected and dispersed over $100,000 in restitution to victims. Our financial clerk works closely with the probation and parole office to communicate payments made and balances owed for the people that are on supervision. So another financial responsibility that we have in our office is guardian ad litem fees and court-appointed attorney's fees. So this is when the court appoints either a guardian ad litem in certain cases or a court-appointed attorney in other cases. We collect and hold deposits from litigants in those cases. And at the conclusion of the case, we will pay then those attorneys' bills and then apply the deposits that they've already made. And then we are responsible for collecting the balance of the fees that they owed toward those bills. We use the state debt collection agency to collect our outstanding debt. In 2022, they collected $248,590.74 for our office. And pictured here is Stacy Engel. She is our finance clerk. Oh, how to go back? Okay. So the clerk of court's office also manages the juries for the courts. Every year in October, our jury clerk sends out notices to create a random pool of eligible jurors for the following year. This past year, we sent approximately 1,400 questionnaires to potential jurors. Each month, then notices are sent to approximately 60 to 70 jurors advising that they will be on call for the following month. Jurors will then receive a summons if they are selected for a specific trial in that month. So then the day of the trial, the clerk provides an orientation to the jurors. We do that here in the county boardroom. In the new building, I believe we're actually going to have a specific room for the jury assembly, which is fantastic. So the clerk then will escort the jurors into the courtroom and assist the attorneys and the judges with the jury selection process, which is called voir dire. We're also responsible for scheduling bailiffs for trials, providing meals to the jurors, and accommodating any jurors that have disabilities. Jurors are paid $20 per day for their service plus mileage. And we also pay the bailiff wages and cover the cost of the jury meals. So one of the most significant challenges that we faced in 2022 was the number of jury trials that we had in our court. We had 19 trials for a total of 29 trial dates. This is a huge increase for our county, which has averaged only 4 to 5 trials per year in the past 10 years. We have already had 1 trial in 2023, and we currently have 30 additional trials scheduled. Now, a lot of those trials will come off. All of those cases aren't going to be tried. But at this point in the year, being that we're only mid-January, that's a huge number of trials that we have scheduled. So another challenge that we faced this past year was a transition in our calendaring system. When our second court started, we had to learn how to maintain 2 court calendars efficiently. We transitioned from a paper calendar to an online calendar, and we also shifted the scheduling from our clerks to our judges and our judicial assistants. Everything has gone well, but it continues to be a work in progress. Also in 2022, our district attorney's office lost their 2 assistant district attorneys. This created a challenge for our office because it affected our ability to schedule criminal matters. And as mentioned earlier, we did see a decrease in the number of criminal filings through our office. The good news is they have recently had some interviews which sound promising. So that situation might resolve itself hopefully soon. A statewide challenge that affected our office is the lack of attorneys taking state public defender appointments. So eligible indigent defendants are not being appointed attorneys in a timely fashion, which is resulting in our courts having to appoint attorneys at county expense. Unfortunately, we are not able to collect those fees back like we are in regular court appointments because these people have been found indigent and are eligible for public defender services. So this is definitely an issue that's going on across the state. And I don't know when that problem is going to be fixed. But Judge Dutcher was recently interviewed for a PBS episode of Here and Now regarding that issue. It is available online for viewing. So they are trying to draw some light to this problem, and hopefully something will be looked at for that in the future. So the last significant challenge that we saw in our office this past year was a shortage in court reporters. Judge Blader was not able to secure a stenographer, a full-time court stenographer, and he was placed in the digital audio recording pool. So what this means is it's an audio recording system that is run by a DAR reporter who appears remotely by Zoom. So they're monitoring and recording that court appearance. There's a picture here of the shot clock. We have these in both of our courtrooms. So when this clock is running, that means that the hearing is being recorded. So the DAR reporter that's appearing remotely is maintaining those records and those recordings, and they are also responsible for preparing any transcripts that are requested from those hearings. So now that I've talked about all the challenges, I'm going to tell you about some of the highlights in our office this year. We hired 3 new staff members in 2022. Caitlin Nutt filled the newly created judicial assistant juvenile clerk position for the second judge. And Mitchell Gerdoskas and Jill Mastercola filled the open criminal and traffic positions. The training process in our office is very lengthy and extensive because of everything that we do, but they're all doing a great job. At this point, we do have one remaining chief deputy position to be filled. So, and I did note some challenges with the second court and calendaring, but I also wanted to note some highlights. The transition from one court to two is much harder than adding an additional court when a county already has multiple judges. And I'm proud to say that our county handled the transition seamlessly. I would attribute that to communication between everyone that was involved and everyone's willingness to be flexible with the process. So things basically went off without a hitch, and yeah, it went really, really well. So also in 2022, we had the announcement that Judge Dutcher would be taking over as the chief judge for the 4th Judicial District, which means that Judge Dutcher oversees all of the counties, the different courts in our district, Winnebago, Sheboygan, Calumet, Marquette, Marquette, Manitowoc, Green Lake, and Fond du Lac counties. So he's actually traveling more to these counties, spending a little more time away from the office, but that's worked out well because the second judge has been kind of picking up some of the extra. So our office continues to backscan the old files and old records in anticipation of the move to the new courthouse. To date, we have scanned approximately 18,000 of the 26,000 files that we had to scan. This past year in 2022, my office scanned approximately 8,000 files, which is pretty impressive considering how much work our office does on a daily basis. So very, very proud of them. I know last year, at the annual report, you saw a picture of the thermometer. So I just wanted an updated thermometer picture to show you how many files we have left. So I think we're doing really well, and I think we're going to meet our goal before we move into the new building. So the biggest highlight for me in 2022 was my appointment as the clerk. It's been a year of transition for the clerk of court's office as a whole, for sure. And at times it's been very overwhelming, but our staff is amazing. They've been very supportive. They're very hardworking. The judges have been wonderful. So it's been a very rewarding 10 months too. So I just want to close with this quote from Judge Randy Koshnick, who is the Director of State Courts. So it is a nice compliment to the clerks, but it also sums up the answer to the question, what do you do? So does anyone have any questions?
Very good job, Rena. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Rena? Nothing?
All right.
Thanks
thank
a
you.
lot. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on then to the discussion possible motion action item, the 2023 fire wardens as proposed by the Department of Natural Resources. You all saw that. Is there a motion? Motion to approve the three? Is there a second? Second by Mr. Bossard. All right. Is there any discussion? All right, let's proceed to vote. See. Okay, it passes. Very good. Thank you. Consideration, possible action on the following resolution. Resolution number 010123, acknowledgement of Patty Wolfil's service to and retirement from Waushara County. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Kirschner, second by Mr. Eckstein. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. Very good. And I just wanted to say to Patty, yeah, we can. Yep. I just wanted to say thank you. Like I told you the other day, there was many times when you got up and reassured us through the last pandemic, and that's, I guess, the only one I had, and it just really, really meant a lot to me to have you there, explaining everything and reassuring us. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, you guys.
Stephanie has taken over formal reins now. We had Patty's retirement last week, Friday, on Friday the 13th, and that was her selection. But had several staff come back and your other friends that have left and come back and
That's
they were
retirees.
and it was very special and thank you for all that you've done. And Stephanie wanted to add things.
So, and Friday the 13th, Patty also received the Partners in Public Health Certificate of Recognition from our state health officer. So I just wanted to congratulate her on that. 32 years of service in public health, not just at Washare County, but also Wapaka.
Oh.
And I'll try to keep it under like a 3-minute thing. But over the last few months, I've been paying attention to, don't read my speech. Pay attention.
Sound off real quickly because she could be something else.
To what Patty has been saying. So here we go. This is for you. When you look at the past 65 years and ask yourself, what was all that for? I'll try to stop crying. What do I have to show for it? Did I make a difference? I challenge you to think about 3 things: your purpose, your identity, and your success. Even though this new season of life may require a different set of skills, you, Patty, have always been so much more than the license you carry and the job title you were appointed. You have a greater and continued purpose. Your purpose defines who you are, which for so long has been a nurse and a health officer, where you have been the go-to person, a trusted resource, and the expert in your field. Your identity has been wrapped around these 2 items, but all along you have held 3 very significant and more valuable roles: a wife, a mother, and a grandmother. A position can be replaced, but you as a person and the impact you make on those closest to you, Patty, makes you irreplaceable. As we have seen in this community, an individual's greatest strength goes far beyond themselves. Success can be defined in many ways. However, it can be summed up in one word: faithfulness. What that looks like and means is different for each person. Life is often looked at as a book with a beginning and end, with several chapters in between. I challenge you to put down the book and instead view life in seasons. So we're not closing any chapters today. Seasons come and go, but are never ending. This new season of life will be met with adventures and challenges, and we will continue to be here and walk alongside you. Take care, Patty, and we wish you only the best.
Thank you all for allowing me to be a member and an employee of Washare County. It was very, very good. Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
75 days.
Yeah, right.
Volunteer guardian.
Enjoy your retirement as well. So, yeah, you bet. Okay, we'll move on to board suggestions for future agenda items. Yeah, maybe. Mhm.
So I'm still trying to get Dan Foth from the UW to come and do a training. We're looking at possibly April, and he hasn't gotten back to me yet. I messaged Friday, so he might be off. So it's kind of last minute for him. But if we did April, would it be possible on that county board day to come like a couple hours earlier if we wanted to do a training and have him come in and do some interactive? Or would we want to push it out further? Because he hasn't said yes yet, but would that work? Or are you interested, not interested?
Any comments? Does that work for?
Whatever you want to schedule does not matter to me.
I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right. I guess general consensus is yep.
And so as soon as I hear back, I'll let you know.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Is there anything else? Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. Move to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Bonfiglio. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.